Thank you. This week, we're starting a new segment, which is a dYdX segment. In this segment, we'll be inviting participants throughout the dYdX ecosystem to talk about everything and anything happening in there. For the first week, we have Brian Crain, co-founder and CEO of ChorusOne, joining us. Thank you so much for coming on, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, to start us off, ChorusOne has 50 plus supported protocols and nearly $3 billion in staked assets. You're one of the largest players in the validator space. So, throughout all of that, what have you learned about the complexities and challenges that come with staking?
Yeah, I think staking is really sort of at the core of running all of these crypto networks, right? Like today, like most networks are proof of stake networks. And so, doing what we're doing, it really means, running like a big variety of different crypto networks with different consensus mechanisms, all kinds of different stuff. So I think definitely one of the important things and things that we really care about is to understand the technology deeply. Have really amazing engineers. We run our infrastructure on bare metal, so we really kind of control it fully. Care a lot about security, of course. So I think there's all that. Another thing that's really crucial about running validators, I think, is contributing to the networks we support. And that can have many different forms. Of course, running the nodes is one thing. It can include contributing to governance, decision making, giving feedback. We invest in protocols. There's like many different ways we try to kind of help the network, contribute to the networks. And then maybe the third thing I'd mention here is, of course, the sort of relationship with the token holders, because in the end, the customer is and who helps us generate our revenues, right, are the people holding tokens. But it's not just people, right? It's people, it's VC funds, it's wallets, it's ETFs, it's exchanges, it's custodians. So there's a huge range of different parties, and we have to interface with lots of different parties, and they have different requirements. They need different products. They need data in different ways. Some need APIs, some need user interface. So yeah, I think dealing with all that, figuring what you can do in the best way, supporting all these protocols, I think those are kind of the key things for doing this well.
So you mentioned how you support a lot of different chains and validate a lot of different chains. What is the main differentiating factor for dYdX? One that comes to mind specifically for me is the USDC revenue component, as opposed to the native token issuance potentially. But I know there's also fragmented order books amongst the validator set. So maybe if you could just speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that dYdX is maybe the only chain. I mean, we run some things that are not proof of stake chains, some other types of protocols. But I think of the proof of stake protocols, I think dYdX is probably the only one that I'm aware of that does not have any token issuance. Right. So all of the revenues on dYdX for the stakers and for us as validators come from the trading fees that people are paying when trading on dYdX, and are paid in USDC. So that is super, super cool. And I think that's actually the sort of the staking returns APRs are pretty substantial at the moment on dYdX, purely coming from trading fees. I think it's like 10% or something like that. So, right. So you basically, if you hold $1,000 worth of dYdX token, you're earning like $100 worth of USDC per year staking that. So I think that's like super, super cool. Of course, there are like a lot of other things. I mean, just as a product, dYdX is very unique, right? Because you have this incredible user experience for a decentralized order book based DEX. So I think it's just a super crucial product, and I think it's really one of those projects where in the future you could imagine thousands, tens of thousands of assets all over the world, all being traded in this one exchange in a decentralized way. So I think it's in terms of the ambition and the scope of what dYdX is doing, it's very unique, and it's just very exciting. And I find the user experience of dYdX chain is just fantastic.
Yeah, with those unique features that a validator has to be in charge of also comes unique complexities, right? One of which is how MEV is managed on dYdX. I've read the papers that ChorusOne has produced surrounding MEV on dYdX, and to be honest, they seem like completely different games than the sort of MEV that one would think of on, say, Solana or Ethereum. So what are your thoughts on the MEV in general, and how do you kind of see that play out in the future, especially pertaining to dYdX?
So in general, right, MEV basically revolves around taking the transactions or the blocks and kind of using those in an optimal way to produce the most value, right, when those blocks are created. And of course, let's say if you look at Ethereum, there's a whole bunch of different parties that are in that. There's these block builders, then there's relayers, there's validators, then it could be wallets, like a lot of different parties, or the user that sends a transaction, a lot of different parties are involved. And I think where this all is going is that each party sort of tries to do the thing that's profit maximizing. And that's where the equilibrium is, right? So in Ethereum, when MEV kind of came up, there was people who were like, this is a bad thing, it's a bad thing. And of course, not long later, everyone was running flashbots, right? And everyone is doing it. So I think that's the natural equilibrium where things go, is that it's basically each party sort of does the profit maximizing thing. And then it's the job of the protocol developers to design something that when everyone does the maximizing thing, it makes sense, right? It works, and users can get a good product in the end. And as ChorusOne, we focus a lot on that, and we see providing superior returns through MEV as key differentiator. And we've invested a lot, especially on Ethereum. We run a modified Ethereum client that's producing higher rewards than normal Ethereum validator, basically through doing a bunch of somewhat sophisticated things when it comes to how we choose and create the blocks that we propose. Now, in the dYdX case, right? dYdX case basically came to us and they wanted to work with us on figuring out how to do MEV optimally for dYdX chain. And the thing that's very different about dYdX is they control the application as well as the chain, right? If you're an application on Ethereum, you cannot say, I'm going to change the staking logic, I'm going to change this to better work for my application. But dYdX could do this. And for dYdX, they basically felt that, we concluded, right, that if you're going to have MEV and people, for example, sandwiching users, then it's not a great thing, right, for the user experience. And what we came up with as a solution here was basically looking at what the validators, basically using like statistical measures to detect when a validator is doing something other than just taking the transactions in the order received and proposing the blocks like that. And if that happens, they basically get penalized. So the idea here is that some kind of monitoring of what all the validators are doing and a potential slashing of validators who engage in some MEV, that kind of creates the incentives for a validator not to do that. And that's kind of the equilibrium we have on dYdX at the moment.
Yeah, that was super interesting, Brian. Thanks for explaining how MEV kind of differs on dYdX chain versus others. And it's really cool. And I'm interested to see it progress over the coming years as to how that system to mitigate MEV works. But thanks so much for coming on, Brian. We'll be sure to drop a link in the show notes to your Twitter. Do you mind sharing with people where they can learn more about ChorusOne?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just go to chorus.one, so CHORUS.one. You can learn everything about the networks we support. We produce a lot of research as well, including on topics like MEV, dYdX. And so you can also find all of that there, or you can get in touch if you want to stake or have any other questions you want to discuss with us.
Awesome. And next week we will be talking with Kepler. So listeners, be sure to put in the comments if you have any questions for them, and we will be sure to ask. Thanks again, Brian. We'll talk to you later.